Okay, so this is the second part. Again, if I play this guy, we're gonna have the spheres. In this case, they're kind of sticky to this guy, to the semi-sphere. So again, you can change all the properties for how this material relates to the particle objects in a very simple way by changing these factors here. Okay, let me just pause in the middle, select the particles. Remember, you can always go to the outliner. You can always select the particles here, obviously. Simple way, not always you see them. If you want to select the particles from the beginning, you don't see them. Just press here and that should be more than, it's a perfect possibility as well. But I want you guys to see how we can change this very easy way. Remember, we have our little machine here and we want to use that machine instead of this sphere. Well, first thing is obvious that it's probably a little too big, so we either make the scene a little bigger or we make this guy smaller. We can change it afterwards with no problem. I'm going to select particles. In particle shape, I'm going to just put the points so we don't have the spheres. And again, we're going to select the particles, shift our object, and in particles we're going to go to instancer replacement. Okay, the moment you do that, sorry, it's the opposite direction. First the object, then shift the guy, particles, instancer. Okay, the moment you do that, you have, instead of a particle, an object, and as you can see, the scale is way too big, so probably want to scale this guy down and they will follow. Very small little machines that it's quite cool. Something I didn't explain before, and it's within the properties of the emitter. If I start this emitter from the beginning of the animation and you press it, you go to the emitter here and you can change the way the emitter emits. It can emit different ways. From an opni, which is this case, from a point emerges gradually different particles, but you can also say, and it's a good one, volume, for example. It creates this box that you can easily select and change the scale in different ways, and the particles will be created within this volume. Let's see how it works. You see how, and it could be better for rain type of particles, or if you want to concentrate it only within a specific range like this. You know, you could always push the camera here and have the feeling as if it was rain, but in this case we're just going to concentrate the volume like that, on top of the sphere. Okay, so I guess the instancer, we have it, and not only that, we also have the collision that we assigned before. So yes, these guys are actually touching, and they have the same resilience and friction that we applied to the object in GeoConnector. So we can change that and trick different ways how our object collides with this, and as you can see, we can make it bounce more or less and change the offset a little bit to make it bounce against this object. Okay, so this I think it could generate interesting digital compositions of our module. You could also rotate our piece to create a container that collects these guys. This could be an interesting way of doing it as well. Just hide this guy, and you could have an interesting composition right here that you can perfectly render in different ways. So this will be, you can try different moments, different type of resilience against the surface, and render it 4 times to put it into your grid. I'm just playing very fast before this film tutorial finishes. Let me go to the outliner and turn on Shift H this guy, and rotate J to rotate every 5, and see how that is. We can select the particles, sorry, the emitter, which is here as well, or you can select in the outliner and change the number of particles that come out of here. So you can say just 20 if you think there are too many and it's making your computer not respond correctly. So you see now how they're much less. It could be good, no? Obviously. Other things that we can change by selecting the emitter, it's the lifespan. So these guys are going endlessly because the lifespan in, I think it's, if I remember well, is in particle shape. You can select life forever, but you can also say random range or constant and say lifespan of 1, and this is frames, so we probably want it like from, I don't know, 60, let's say, and random of 30. Let's see what happens here. If I stop this, you should have a lifespan that's quite different for each of them. So this we'll see afterwards how it's very useful to not have so much geometry within our animation. Another thing that's interesting is we could select the particles and go to particle collision event. So basically it's the particle shift this guy and event. You can say particle 1 and you can just click here, emit random particles and number of particles, let's say 2, and say create event. The moment we do that, it's difficult to see here, but let me get closer. You see these little guys here? That's another system of particles that come out of the bouncing against this surface. So every time one of these particles hits this surface, creates 2 new particles that we can also select. And if I think this was the rhythm, select the other one and say again instance. Sorry, again, I did the mistake. Select the particles and say instancer. Okay. Probably now we're gonna see it better. Let's see what happens. See, every time it hits, there's like, and we're gonna be able also to change the same factors that we were changing before to these new particle systems and that we have just created by giving a new event to those first particles. Okay, so within this I think we can create several interesting compositions that we should render again, as I said before, with a realistic quality in order to get the best effect out of a very complex composition. Okay, so I hope you liked it. This is the end of this 2-part tutorial.